afternoon, everyone, and welcome to What the Why with Barbara Ann. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and want to get unstuck in your business, job, or life. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point in their lives, they felt similarly, and today is no exception. Please join me in welcoming Sarai Romero to our show today. Growing up, Sarai watched her parents go from factory job to factory job, knowing that was not what she wanted for herself. As a dreamer, in the literal and figurative sense, it was also very important to her to be able to give back to her community. In the past several years, we've seen a lot of injustices toward people of color and women. Many companies pledged to start or increase their diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, and she decided she wanted to join a company that is committed to change, that would allow more people of color, women, and the disabled community, and others to have more opportunities for growth, better pay, and a fighting chance. While working on her bachelor's degree in communications, Sarai also studied gender inequality, racial inequity, and how to become a company that is more diverse and accepting of the differences that we all have to offer. These classes ignited a fire in her and led her to pursue a role in a diversity, equity, and inclusion position. It's also how she found her why. Sarai was accepted into the RVN Fellowship Program, which we're going to talk a little bit with her about. With the help of RVN, she tapped into her full potential and began pursuing her passion. During the fellowship, she was paired with me and Joe Colantonio, a friend of our show, as her leadership cohort facilitators. But she continued on as a coachee and mentee with me, and a few months later, she joined Purpose-Filled Solutions and Evolutions as an intern. After assisting with the overhaul of our DEI program, which you're also going to hear more about, that internship turned into a critical consulting role with our organization. She ultimately graduated from Southern New Hampshire University, SNHU, with a bachelor's in communications, and she's co-leading the first publicly available offering of our new course, Paving the Way to Civility, Inclusion, Equity, and Diversity. In addition to being incredibly proud to call her team member and colleague, I'm very excited Sarai is able to join us via Zoom from Wisconsin. So without further ado, please welcome Sarai to our show. So, yay! Round of applause for you. They're a big audience. So after I read through all of that, I know your story is a very interesting one, and one that is both unique and common with so many young people. But when you were little, I don't know that you saw yourself leading the overhaul of a significant shift in how we talk about inclusion, equity, and diversity. So what did little Sarai want to be when she grew up?
I wanted to be everything. The sky was the limit for me. I really love animals. Like I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then, I got to college, and even at college, I wanted to do psychology. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be a lawyer. Um, I think for the most of the part of my life, I didn't know what impact the color of my skin had on my opportunities, and I also didn't understand my immigration status. Like my parents never sat down and talked to me and said, you don't have a social security number. You can't get a driver's license. You can't do X, Y, and Z. You can't qualify for FAFSA. I didn't know any of that. And it didn't hit me until junior year of high school where I was like, I had to make a really big decision on, do I stay in a school where I'm not gonna go to college, or do I move? Do I make the move? So I wanted to do a lot of things, and I think I was in a bubble where my parents didn't really talk about the impact of, living in the United States as an immigrant.
So when you find this out, how did you get from there to college, RVN Fellowship Program, and ultimately coming into my life and the life of our other team members at Purpose-Filled Solutions and
Yeah,
Evolutions?
so Oh, sorry.
No, I'm the one I keep. Oh, we're just gonna have one of those days. Our audience, they know I have no issues. I make a mistake, I just roll with it. So, how did you find us?
So I've always been very driven. Because I guess I lived my life in a little bubble, I thought, I could do anything. So when I was told, hey, you don't qualify for FAFSA, and if you stay here, you don't really have the chance to go to college, which is what you essentially want to do, I looked into charter schools. So I applied junior year to different charter schools that were not in my area, and I got accepted into a charter school. This charter school was about 30 to 45 minutes from my house, and I
Wow.
had to take a bus to get there, and I came in really behind. So I was in school from probably like 6 in the morning to 6 in the afternoon. I wouldn't get home till like 7 or 8. Um, I took a bunch of AP classes. I did a lot of extracurricular activities, and luckily that school supplied us with scholarships, and I was able to get a full ride scholarship to Dominican University.
Wow.
Um, at Dominican University, I was first gen. I didn't know how to navigate school. My parents didn't go to college. Um, I got the pressure, of like you have to work, you have to pay for your own, gas money, and like it was hard. It was hard. I was taking 6 classes per term.
Wow.
So it really got to me, and I ended up dropping out. I got really depressed. I feel like I had really no community. At that point, I did have DACA, but juggling six classes per term was a lot, and having to work, and I eventually just dropped out and went to work. I worked at a restaurant for about 2 years, and I hated it. I knew I knew that I
That
had
just wasn't for
so much
you.
potential.
Yeah.
And, I was told you could be, a manager, you could be a trainer. And then like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. So, I came back to school through a program called Noble Forward from the high school I graduated from. And they're the ones that told me about Braven. They didn't really tell me much of it, but I jumped at any opportunity. If it meant advancing my career, if it meant networking, I jumped at it, and luckily I got accepted. And that's where I met you, and my other coach, Joe. And during this time, I was taking courses that really centered around work culture and how to make it more inclusive. And I always knew I wanted to give back to my own community, and why not give back to all the communities that really need that help. And that's how I landed in
Yeah.
your company.
Yay! And we're so much better for it. For those who might not know, and our audience is a pretty well informed audience, but for those who might not know, what is the DACA program?
So it was implemented by Barack Obama when he was president, and basically he gave a work permit to any immigrant child that was brought here before the age of 18. And it gives you protected status. How Not protected status, you don't have status. It gives you some type of protection so that you don't get deported, and you're able to work. And if the state allows it, you're also able to get a state ID and a driver's license.
Okay.
And that's about it.
Okay.
But it's more than nothing.
Yeah, and it's more than some states to this day still allow. And you are moving forward. I mean, you have built a life here. You've gone to school. On your LinkedIn, you talk about being a proud mommy to an adorable little boy named Nathan. But soon, you have another addition joining you, which is one of the many reasons why you're zooming in from Wisconsin. But so you're going to be the proud mommy of 2. And you and your husband, so while you are parents, you're both in school full time, and you're going through this Braven Fellowship program, which is an added level of intensity and study. So for our audience that doesn't know what the Braven program is, can you give us a little bit of an overview of that?
Yeah, so with Braven, I really like what they're doing. They're providing all these resources, but for primarily people of color or people that were brought up in communities that didn't have enough resources. So what they did for us is we took courses on how to network, um, how to navigate school, where to find your community. If you need help, with FAFSA or how to pay for school, to give you that information, like where in school can you get that support. And then we also, at the end, we had the capstone challenge, which we work with the company, so they supply us a problem. They give us, our company is at a stall. How do we fix this? Like, how do we diversify our own team? How do we make sure we're inclusive? So, in your cohort, you have about 4 to 6 people, maybe a little bit more of other students, where we come up with a solution and then we go and we present it to the company. So, not only are we seeing what it's like to work for a company, but we're networking, and they're giving us more opportunities to get into a company and build these networks. And we do mock interviews with companies as well, which that's also an opportunity to network. So it gives you all of that knowledge that you didn't have growing up. I didn't know how to do a mock interview. I had never done a mock interview. I did not know how to network. Nobody told me how to network. My parents, like Barbara Ann mentioned, have always worked at factories. They never taught me financial literacy. They never taught me how to navigate, a professional world. And Braven does that. And after that, they still support you and they send you a newsletter with opportunities. And you can also do a mentorship program where they pair you with a professional in your field.
Yeah, and interestingly, I have continued with the program, although yours is the only leadership cohort that I've done. You guys ruined it for us. The group was so amazing. But no, actually, I have a Braven mentee right now who is a young Asian woman who goes to Harvard, and we've decided to continue to be mentors and mentee as she continues her school journey. So at the conclusion of Braven, and at the conclusion of your college career, we stayed in touch. So believe it or not, it's time for a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how that staying in touch turned into Sarai being one of the most important members of our team and the program that we're launching on June 2nd and 3rd. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, Sarai Romero, who is actually, what you're seeing on the screen is diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant for Purpose-Filled. What she really is our civility, inclusion, equity, and diversity champion. Now, before she became that, we were talking about the Braven program and how we met, and you still needed an internship, and you weren't quite finding what you wanted. And I had put it out there, if you ever needed an internship in the field that you really want to pursue, now that you had found your passion, feel free to reach out to me. And I guess Braven did its job in terms of helping with those networking skills. So you reached out to me, and we started a conversation. And I had been backburnering, revamping and overhauling my diversity program because one of the things that we were in agreement with was it's just not working. And we were seeing that. We kept seeing it in the news over and over and over again. And so I asked you if you were up to the task of taking hundreds of documents and multiple conversations and weekly meetings and leading the charge. And then you came up with our program. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you took the lead in developing?
Yeah, so I think one thing that resonated between the both of us is what's not working, right? So I already knew what's not working. So I really dove into, all right, how do we want to tackle this, right? And one thing that really stuck out to me that you mentioned a lot is we have to start with inclusion first and diversity last, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw it. I did an externship with a big company, and they're like, we're so diverse. And like, I didn't see it. I didn't see the diversity. And even then, um, it's not about diversifying, it's about being inclusive first and fixing what's wrong with your company first, and then bring in the diverse group. And a lot of people, the misunderstanding with diversity is they think bring in more Latinas, bring in more Black women, and that's not diversity. Diversity is people with different body sizes, people with different disabilities, people of different ages. That's diversity. There's a lot of things that make us diverse. So that's really what I wanted to focus on in this training program. But also, one thing that really stuck out to me that I hadn't seen in any other training program or anybody else really talk about was mental health.
Yes.
With the pandemic, we saw a lot of people just spiral, and a lot of people lost employees. They continue to lose employees because they're not prioritizing their employees' mental health. And that comes with neurodivergence. There's people that are neurodivergent, and they don't they don't feel like they belong, and companies are not focusing on that either. And so I think that was initially the main focus of it is mental health. Let's first focus on that, then let's focus on everything else that makes people diverse. And then we figured out that there's intersectionalities.
Yes.
People can, I can be a woman of color, but also be, come from a wealthy background.
Yes.
Or I can come from, middle income or poverty. So there's many things that impact people, and I don't see that a lot in other training programs. I don't see all the facets that really encompass diversity.
Absolutely. And, as someone who's been working in this space since it was originally just called diversity, a long time ago, I think one of the things that impressed me most and how I knew you were the right person is when you were given carte blanche to put together a program that you felt would be most effective in tackling the issues. I mean, you are Latina, you're DACA, you're female, pregnant, with a mom, a sister. You've seen so many different things, and you were able to look at the scope of everything and say, you know what, we've got a mental health crisis that needs to be addressed as part of all of this. And that was the first thing that we included, and then we subsequently added civility as a component of our program, because of how society has gotten so polarized, and how it has been brought into the workplace. But I was blown away that there are still a lot of people out there talking about race, or gender, and they're not talking about religion. And to your point, yes, I am a mixed race Black female who is permanently partially disabled, but I am more privileged than a lot of other people. And so we go down we have what we describe a very important and necessary conversation about everything from colorism to race to societal status to even our accents. I mean, we pretty much leave no stone unturned. And
someone's at the front door doorbell.
Somebody wants to join us live, but that's okay. What's really great, I think, though, with what we've come up with is a program that addresses the foundation of a company or even a family, because there are families that are grappling with this, deals with addressing everybody feeling included, then addressing the equity and making sure that the people who are already part of that group are equitably treated, and then bringing in the diverse candidates, because otherwise we run into this issue with confirmation bias when everything falls apart. And you sent me some recent information about some statistics, which I thought was really interesting in terms of even the diversity of diversity officers. And it surprised me at how little diversity there actually is among those who are leading the charge for diversity. And so it's really great that you've decided, as a younger person, to champion the causes in this space. As you move forward and as we approach our time, what advice would you give to someone else who's considering taking this path or this road less traveled?
I think that the advice I'd give to that person is you're going to make mistakes. And I think that's what really scares people about going into this career field, or even just having that conversation, is saying the wrong thing. It's asking the wrong question, right? But those conversations are needed. They're important. We need to be uncomfortable in order to understand other people. We're not going to know everything. And I think that's the beauty of the world, right? Is that we all come from different places. We all come from different cultures, different backgrounds. We were brought up differently. There's so many things that make people different, and that's the beauty of it. And we can't learn if we don't ask. We can't grow if we don't put ourselves in these uncomfortable situations. So it's important to sit down and have that conversation. It's important to sit down and say, why do I have these thoughts? Where are these unconscious biases coming from? Why do I look at you and feel like you should speak a certain way? Why do I think that I should be a certain way? I think that society has really given us this false image of what people are supposed to be. I used to be told, you're so well spoken. Your English is so perfect. And I used to be so like enamored with that. I used to take pride because I read a lot. I read a lot of books, and that's how I expanded my words, and that's how I guess deleted my accent. It comes out sometimes, but I worked a lot to erase that part of me. And now I understand that I was erasing myself, who I was. And it's not until I sat down and really thought about it, and really thought about, why do I think that being well-spoken means that I'm more educated? So it's this idea that people with accents are not educated. So I just think that we have to sit with it. It's not going to be easy. It might bring up some emotions that we might have just like piled on and, put them in deep, but it's important because that's how we can be able to live with other people and accept that other people are going to be different. They're going to speak differently than us. They're going to look differently than us. That's just the only way it's going to happen, is if we sit down and look at it in the face and really confront it.
And you're right. It takes getting uncomfortable to change. And so, believe it or not, we're at time. So, thank you for being a guest on our show. In addition to being able to reach you through our company, which the contact information will be up, what's a good way for people to connect with you if they'd like to?
I am on LinkedIn. That's probably the only space
that works
that I really like to be in. I like to. I don't like social media.
That's all right. We talk about that in our class too, and paving the way to civility, inclusion, equity, and diversity. Otherwise, seeds a better way of being in work and in life. So thank you again, and we'll have to have you come back and talk about how we're changing the conversation in a few months as we start doing so. As for upcoming guests, we're going to actually take a little bit of a break, a couple weeks off for some personal reasons and the Memorial holiday because of the way our taping schedule runs. So you're going to enjoy some hand-picked reprises of a few episodes that I'm going to select. But when we return, we're pleased to announce that we have some exciting guests lined up for you, including Chet Highsmith, the owner of Paint In with Chet, wellness advocate Dominique Nicole, and LaQuanda McCullum, a Worth Advocate TV show host and founder of I Do To Me, as well as many others. Please believe me when I say you really don't want to miss what any of our future guests have to say about their journeys. And if you missed any of our past guests and want to check out what they had to say, you can catch all of Season 1 and Season 2 of What the Why on the What the Why page on demand for RVN Television's website, as well as Roku. You have so many viewing choices these days. So many viewing choices. So thank you very much for watching our show, and please tell a friend or colleague about us. As a reminder, What the Why airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m., and then on Mondays again at 3:30 p.m., and all of those times are Eastern Daylight Time. We're also available on demand through RVN Television and Roku, as well as some other platforms now and coming soon. And also please remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life or career, big or small, please join us again for more inspirational and informative conversations with leaders such as Sarai, who wanted to make change in her path and overcame whatever fears or obstacles stood in the way to finding her core purpose and living it.